After a couple days off, the Hurricanes are back and they're taking on the Chicago Blackhawks. It's Original Six, Windy City coming down to face the Carolina Hurricanes in the Category 5 type of weather. Let's see who's going to bring it out in this one. I got Brooke LoFurno joining me today from the Hockey Writers, and we'll talk all about that on today's episode of Locked On Hurricanes.
You're Locked On Hurricanes, your daily podcast on the Carolina Hurricanes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Wednesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. I'm your host, Zach Martin, the credentialed Carolina Hurricanes beat writer over at the Hockey Writers, also the co-host of the Surgecast, which is a weekly Carolina Hurricanes podcast, along with all my duties here at Locked On Hurricanes. But my special guest today, super excited to have her on, first time on the show, actually a fellow writer with me at the Hockey Writers, but she's the Chicago Blackhawks co-beat writer. I got Brooke LoFurno joining me today. Brooke, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's good to see you, Zach. I'm excited to talk hockey with you.
Yeah, no, same. Yeah, it's actually, I think the first time we actually get to talk in person rather than through our Slack channels, talking about Teuvo Teravainen and Hawks, Hurricanes in general. So yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun. Finally going to be able to talk to you about this. So coming into this game, it's Hawks Hurricanes on ESPN Plus Hulu, 7 p.m. start time. Thankfully, it's not a 1:30 start like the Hurricanes had on Monday. Those early afternoon games, I tell you, it's a completely different animal. But for the Blackhawks, they're coming into town. This is the first meeting of the season between the two sides. 6-4 in their last 10, just being Winnipeg. Hurricanes 7-2-1. They're on a 3-game winning streak. But for you, what over the last few games, and more specifically against Winnipeg, with Jonathan Toews coming back for the first time, for you, what are your thoughts so far on the Blackhawks and kind of like their current stretch of runs, even snapping that losing streak and getting that shutout win the other night?
I do think they're progressing. I do think they're in maybe a bit of a slump right now. I think they've only scored 6 goals in their last 4 games, but I think it was really big of them to get that win against Winnipeg. I really think they needed that, even just like for themselves. So overall, they're on the right track. I do believe that. They do have a really good confidence and resilience about them as a team. And so I think this will be a really good matchup against Carolina, because I do think that'll be a good kind of test and challenge for them. But so I think they will be going into Carolina with a lot of mojo and I think a good energy, which will be good for them. So I do think it'll make for a good matchup.
I think so too. I think it's going to be very interesting because, while the Hawks are 22-7, I still think they're a team that, even before their 3-game losing streak, you still beat Nashville, you still beat the Blues, you beat Vegas in overtime, Washington in a shootout, and Dallas. Like, those are some pretty good teams to face up against. And even for the Hurricane, they've beaten, the 2-time Stanley Cup champions in Florida, beat New Jersey, and beat a hot Buffalo team. I think, like you said, this is going to be a very interesting matchup between the two sides that are winning over the last 10, but kind of in a different path, I guess, if you want to kind of look at it that way. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Like, just about the Hawks, just kind of, like, what do you mean?
Like, the fact when you're looking at the fact that, like, even with the record and, like you said, scoring only 6 goals in the last 4 games, but they're still being pretty good teams. It's not like they're kind of fighting their way through, kind of like an easy part of a schedule or stuff like that, but just finding ways to get wins even on top teams.
Oh, sorry. I totally misheard you. I was like, I don't get sorry about that.
No, so you're good.
Yes, I think that's even something about them last year that really stood out to me, was that they were actually able to beat really good teams. They beat the Panthers last year, I believe. I believe they even beat Colorado last year. I feel like it's kind of like the same this year as well. Like, they've been able to pull out some really big wins against some good teams. So I do think that's helped them. I do think they have like that what's that thing, like with professional teams, like where they just seem to have, like, they play really good against top competition. Sometimes it can be a little iffy. Sometimes it can be a little iffy, maybe like with teams maybe that are right by them. But when it comes to top teams, it's like they show up. And I think that's kind of what makes them really exciting as well. So I think that's kind of where it shows where their rebuild progression is, that they're able to do that. Now, to do it consistently is what everyone's looking for here. So that's why I think Carolina is definitely a really good measuring stick for them. The head coach, Jeff Blashill, says every team is a good measuring stick, but I do think in this case, especially with kind of like the mini slump that they've kind of been in a little bit with having trouble scoring and stuff, that'll be a really good test for them. And like I said, I do believe that you should expect them to show up.
Oh, yeah, I completely agree. When you kind of, like you said, it's kind of like rising to the occasion on the big teams, and it's kind of like almost playing down to, like you said, they're kind of their level. But when you look at the Hawks, though, I mean, you look at Connor Bedard, 48 points in 36 games, +7. And then it's kind of interesting when you look at everyone else kind of underneath that, like Bertuzzi's -12, Burakovsky's -13, Teuvo is even 12. Like, you kind of see the discrepancy of, like, how I guess, would you say it's kind of like the lines or play styles? Like, what have you kind of noticed when you look at it, like what Connor Bedard's been doing, then you look at the rest of the roster, and it's kind of like you can kind of see it's there, but it's also kind of like it's an interesting dynamic if you look at it that way. Like, what are you seeing from that side?
It is kind of an interesting dynamic because when you see them play, they actually do have a good chemistry about them, I think. Like, Jeff Blashill's done a really good job, I think, of keeping – and the players will say this too about like chemistry, keeping lines together. He doesn't split people up very often unless obviously someone's hurt. Like when Connor Bedard was out, obviously you had to kind of mess with that a little bit. It is kind of a learning process, especially because their defensive core, especially, is so young. But I do think they've actually been a lot better. And this is where I think sometimes maybe stats can kind of be misleading because sometimes if you watch them, sometimes the eye test, they do sometimes struggle defensively. I won't discredit that, but I do think they have been doing a bit better this year in that department, especially with how young they are. So, and their penalty kill has been excellent. Their special teams has been excellent. Their goaltending's been excellent this year, I think, overall. So they do have a lot really to build off of, despite even still, like you mentioned, there is some discrepancies there with the defense and stuff, but the point is they are actually improving. So like I said, it's been actually cool to watch kind of the progression and stuff, because I was actually expecting maybe worse this year, and they've actually totally surprised me.
Yeah, I know, especially at the beginning of the season, they were kind of surprising a lot of people getting the wins and stuff like that too. But even I noticed when you said you're talking about like the penalty kill and the special teams, that's really something that I kind of noticed. Like, when I do like a lot of these previews, I'm looking at like, who's got the head-to-heads, what are the tell the tape say? Because like paper could say one, but what does the actual eye test say? But you bring up the penalty kill, you're talking the second best penalty kill in the NHL for the Hawks at 84.6. Power plays 21.6, which was just 13th. And you look on the Hurricane side of things, their power play was dead last on like December 5th, and now they're 12th at 21.9. Penalty kill's getting better with Jacob Slavin back, which is 15th at 79.6. For you, what do you think that the Hawks are more of a, like, they're really good at the special teams, but it feels like kind of like the 5-on-5 is still kind of an area where they still kind of need to kind of work through some stuff to kind of get where it needs to be, but their special teams are just phenomenal. All intents and purposes.
Yeah, I do think that. I do think there is improvement for 5-on-5 for sure, and I think a lot of games their special teams really kind of carried them. Like their power play carried them, their penalty kill carried them. And I think Blashill also made a good point about if you win the special teams battle during the games, like your chance of winning is like over 70% or something along those lines. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that definitely was a big help to them. And the fact that they had that almost to lean on, I think was good for them. But yeah, 5-on-5, I still think, obviously needs a little bit of work for sure. But for it's at least there's like one component there that definitely is kind of what they lean on for sure right now.
Yeah, I would definitely say I would kind of give the Hawks a little bit more of a lean on the special teams just because their penalty kill is second and their power play is 13th, where the Hurricanes are 12th on the power play, but their penalty kill is like just right at the middle part of the whole, I guess, range of the NHL. So I do give the Hawks a little bit of an edge on that. But like on 5-on-5 play, you're talking 26th in the league for the Hawks at 2.71 per game. Scoring wise, giving up over 3, which is 18th at 3.08. But the Hurricanes, I think this is the 5-on-5 Hurricanes really showing what they can do. 5th in the league in scoring at 3.38. Goals allowed 2.86, which is 8th. I think, like you said, it's like the Hawks lean on their power play and the penalty kill, where I think the Hurricanes are definitely one of those top 5, one of the really good 5-on-5 teams. Thankfully, special teams is kind of catching up a little bit too. Like they're getting to where they need to be, especially the power play. Like I said, dead last to 12th in the span of like a month, almost 2 months is kind of crazy. But I think where you give the Hawks the special teams edge? Would you agree that maybe the Hurricanes might have that 5-on-5 edge that could really dictate the game pace? Would you say that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think pretty much every opponent, I think that the Hawks face might have a little bit of that advantage. And I think that's something that the Hawks have still, like I said, been working through. They do have scores. Like Tyler Bertuzzi's been red hot. A lot of his points have come on the power play. And obviously Bedard is fantastic, sensational. And it's like they have the pieces there still this year. Like have Burakovsky that can score. And unfortunately, like I said, Frank Nazar has been out with an injury and stuff. So there has been some, like I said, some missing pieces there for sure. But I do think there is going to be, the Hawks, I would agree for sure, might have the special teams advantage over 5-on-5 for sure.
Yeah, no, 100%. So you do mention some players, and I got a couple I want to ask you about too. So everyone stick around for segment 2. We're going to jump more into looking at goalies, looking at specific players here in a second on a Wednesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Have you ever hired someone who looked good on paper but wasn't the right fit? You know how important that is when you want candidates who truly match what you're looking for. Trust Indeed sponsored jobs. Hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posting on other sites. Indeed sponsored jobs puts your post at the top of the page and help you reach the right candidates faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed are 90% more likely to report a hire than non-sponsored jobs. So spend more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with less stress, less time, and more results using Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of this show get a $75 sponsored job credit to help give your job the premium placement it deserves at Indeed.com/lockedon. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support the show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Thank you for making Locked On Hurricanes your first listen today, and thank you for making Locked On #1 Sports Podcast Network. If you haven't already, go check out our new Everydayer Club, access to an ad-free audio feed for Locked On Hurricanes, compatible with Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and every other major podcast app. An invite to the members-only Locked On Everydayer Club Discord server, which includes a group chat just for listeners of this show. Go tap the link in the show notes below and learn more today, and also join. Welcome back to segment 2 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. All right, Brooks, I know you mentioned a couple players, and I want to definitely dive into some of those. But one guy I really want to talk about, or I guess who potentially could be in goal for the Hawks, I want to get your thoughts on this. Spencer Knight playing really good this year. I know the win-loss totals doesn't really show what he's actually been doing. 2.53 goals against, a .913 save, 3 shutouts. Phenomenal year for him. I mean, I have him on some of my fantasy teams, and he's got me some key wins, but do you think that the Hawks might go with him, or how are you feeling with the potential direction for the goalie in this game for the Hawks?
I was actually just thinking about this before you came on. If I had to guess, I would think they'll go with Spencer for this game. I'm actually maybe feeling confident that that's the route they'll go, and maybe do Arvid at home.
That's because of the fact that both teams had Tuesday and Wednesday off, and the fact that I think for me, Spencer Knight is the number one for the Hawks. Like, and nothing against Soderblom, 5-8-1, but you definitely tell that's like this is not a 1A 1B situation. This is like, no, here's your 1, here's your 2. 2 days off, especially against the Hurricanes. You probably want to have your best goalie go up against one of the best. I mean, the Hawks, as we record, they're second in the NHL in points. The only team ahead of them is the absolute wagon that's the Colorado Avalanche, and that's just going to be an impossible task to catch those guys. But for me, it makes sense. Like, why would you not want to go with Spencer Knight in a game like this where you're kind of wanting your best to get some points?
Yeah, for sure. And I do believe that the Hawks are confident in both of their goalies, but I think just the way it's going, especially because Spencer's coming off the win last night against the Winnipeg Jets, I just kind of can see where this is going. And and like I said, I think it might be a safe bet to start Arvid at home against the Tampa Bay Lightning the next night. They're going to be on a back-to-back there.
Man, that is some interesting scheduling for the fact that you get the road and home back-to-back, and you get Carolina and Tampa. Yeah, the NHL schedulers did a really good job this year of trying to figure out how to get these things kind of rolling. Because I know last week the Hurricanes had like 2 sets of back-to-backs in the same week. And it's like, sure, this makes sense because why not? But for the Hurricanes, they just had Brandon Bussey play, and the save of the year on Tage Thompson was absolutely unreal. 18-3-1, 2.2 goals against, and 906 save and a shutout. I would think that they want to go with him with the 2 days off, but I also could see them going with Freddie Anderson. 7-10-3, 3.25 goals against, and 8.69. For you, depending on who the Hawks play against, and in terms of net, who would you, I guess, what are your thoughts overall for the Hawks if they had to go up against either Bussey or Freddie Anderson? What kind of would be like a not easier, but a situation where it might benefit them more, depending on the goalie?
Do you know what my first thought was? Anderson. He's got some history against the Blackhawks. I think in that case, I don't think, to be honest, it's just like every other NHL team. I don't think either goaltender is like the right choice, like for them, to be honest. Like everyone is so hard to play against in the league. So, but I would say, I guess if you want to go based on maybe more predictability, then maybe you go Freddie Anderson.
Yeah, I would say because the fact that the Hurricanes do like to flip-flop their goalies, I could see them going with Anderson, but I think with the fact of just with the extra days off and just the performance, maybe sticking with the hot hand, I could see them going with Brandon Bussey. It's just, it'll be very interesting to see how, with them practicing on Wednesday, games on until Thursday. I think it's going to be very interesting because I know we're recording this on Tuesday night. So it's that's weird in between of for the fact that both teams are not playing in 2 days. And then it's just, all right, back at it for Thursday on a, national TV game, which is going to be crazy. But you mentioned some other players from the Hawks. You're talking about Bertuzzi, Burakovsky, Nazar is out. Obviously the guy, Hurricanes fans would yell at me if I don't bring this guy up because he's got a long history with both of these teams in Teuvo Teravainen. How are you feeling about Teuvo coming back into, I guess, would be the Teuvo Bowl with him just being back in Carolina again? This is a team that he's so calm. I don't think it really matters to him who it is, but I think maybe there's a little bit of a jump for him in a game where he's facing his former team.
Yeah, so Teuvo is actually out right now. He's actually hurt. And
oh, geez. Well, there you go. Well, there.
And I'm upset about this for sure. And I'm sure this was probably a game he was looking forward to too. Obviously, he's got a long history with Carolina, but he's definitely someone the Hawks roster is definitely missing a lot. Like you said, he's cool, he's calm, he's experienced. He's honestly been an asset this year everywhere. So right now we haven't really gotten an answer or like a definitive timeline of when he could be back. But yeah, that kind of sucks that they'll be missing Teuvo against Carolina for sure.
Oh, well, there you go. That's just the hard part of trying to keep it with everyone. You don't know who's out because it seems like almost the entire league is out at this point with just this condensed schedule. But so who would you say that you're looking at more? We all know about Connor Bedard. Everyone's going to be watching this guy, but who are like 2 or 3 guys are you really keeping an eye on for the Hawks in this game?
Like I said, Tyler Bertuzzi for sure, because that guy is kind of a one-man wrecking ball this year. Like, you got to look out for him on special teams. You got to look out for him 5-on-5. Like, that guy really has a hot hand this year. Like, he's just kind of been everywhere. You can't really count him out. He's been really fantastic this season. And yeah, besides Connor Bedard, obviously that's an easy one. Burakovsky, I'll be interested to see if he's back because he missed last game. He missed the last game. So hopefully he'll be back by the next or by Carolina. Definitely Artem Levshinov, young defenseman. He's really progressing this season, and he's always someone to watch because he's always up to something. He's got such a kind of like a finesse about him. Sometimes he could be kind of unpredictable and stuff, but I think that's kind of the kind of like essence of him. Like he's got such a great I don't know what it is, just like an essence about him. That's just kind of what I say on the ice. Like, you just got to look out for him because he can hurt you at any time. And yeah, like I said, there's so many. Like I said, Spencer Knight, like someone, if he's in net, that's someone you got to pay attention to. Like, you're going to have to solve him. He's not going to give up anything easy to Carolina. For sure. And also, yeah, you got to keep track of Nick Lardis and Oliver Moore as well. Kind of like that kid line. They've been really good together. And those are two guys that with young speed and skill and talent can really hurt Carolina too on offense. So, yeah, honestly, yeah, the Hawks do have a lot of guys that can hurt anyone on any given time. But it's just more like we talked about. It's just more about it coming together.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think the Hawks are like one of the sneaky teams that can kind of really surprise people on a certain night. I mean, for me, like Ilya Mikheyev, he's always been someone very interesting for me. It's like you don't know when or like how, like he might not show up on the score sheet a lot, but I think he's someone that does impact the game a lot more than people realize too. And I think the same for Alex Vlasic on the defensive side of things. Like, yeah, he's not going to, blow the doors off of terms of points or stuff like that, but he's someone who's really good defensively that I think that if you give him, whatever defensive partner that works or stuff, I think like he shows flashes of what of a Jacob Slavin-esque type game where he's really good defensively. It's just like trying to build on top of that, like am I kind of on the same path, on the right path when it comes to Vlasic and Mikheyev, where it's like I don't think people really notice these guys more than they really should.
For sure. I definitely think they're underrated in the sense of, so like when we say about like Blackhawks defensemen, like Alex Vlasic, he's someone that you maybe don't hear his name a lot. And that's a good thing. If you're hearing I say that's a great thing, because obviously if you're hearing his name a lot in a game, it's usually if he's making a mistake, like because he's a defenseman. So that gets kind of noticed more, but he's someone that really is consistent that way. You're not worried about him really like egregiously making mistakes. So, yeah, he's definitely, I think, underrated for sure. He's just been very consistent. And Ilya Mikheyev, for sure. Like, he is a weapon, too, on the penalty kill. Yeah, he's someone that you might not look at. Like, if you were just from an outside perspective looking even at stats, you might be like, oh, he might just be like a depth player. No, that guy has been, honestly, I think, one of the engines of the team. When he's out, if he's ever misses a game, it's not a good sign, like from fans. Fans are usually like, no, not Mikheyev. Like he really has been a real asset to the Blackhawks.
Yeah, and that's why I think like it's very interesting. Like if you are watching every game or at least like keeping up on it, I think you definitely notice some guys that maybe you don't notice before. Like you said, like with Vlasic, if he's not talked about, that's a good thing. And I think that's the same thing with Jacob Slavin. You're just like, oh, Jacob Slavin doing Jacob Slavin things, shutting down guys, doing what he needs to do. That's all that really matters. And then yeah, like you talk about Mikheyev, where he's a really good PK guy, but he's not going to, score a ton of goals or however it works out. That's kind of the same thing when you look at like a Jordan Stahl or Jordan Martinook for the Hurricanes. It's like, yeah, they're not going to put up like 40, 50 points a season, but PK guys absolutely shut down their, I know for Martinook, he's like the heart and soul of the team when it comes to like the energy, but he also finds a way to get the job done too. So I think, that's why I think like, when you or Gail, whoever covers the Hawks, it's always good to see for me. I always try to make sure I keep up with what you guys write about, because it's good to see maybe the intricacies that maybe some people don't notice when it comes to a roster like this. Because stats can say one thing, but what does the eye test say, or what does the overall shift of what the coaching staff sees for certain guys like that?
Yeah, for sure. I'm always like a big believer of I like the eye test a lot, because I feel like even like when Mikheyev is a good example, like when Mikheyev got traded to the Blackhawks, I didn't really know much about him, but if you just looked at his points, you probably think that he wasn't maybe going to be as big of a factor as maybe as someone like Bertuzzi. But then you see him play, and he's probably one of the most important players out there on a nightly basis. So I do like the eye test a lot for those kinds of things, for sure.
Yeah, no, 100%. All right, so we talked about some players. We got some thoughts on a lot of other stuff, but now we're going to talk about the keys to the game. So stick around. We'll talk about that here in a second on a Wednesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. FanDuel is officially in playoff mode every game during the NFL playoffs. FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get on the action, because right now, every NFL game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost pack waiting for them inside the app. Each game day, you'll see a pack loaded with multiple profit boosts you can apply to bets that you like the most. Every play feels bigger, and boosts make your bets feel that way too. They give you more juice on the bets you already like instead of forcing you to bet something new. You make your picks, and then you play your profit boost to go after even bigger payouts while the playoffs get rolling. So visit FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game day. Welcome back to segment 3 of Locked on Hurricanes, your team every day. All right, Brooke, now it's time to the part of the show where it's the keys to the game. For you, what are some keys that you're hoping the Blackhawks kind of bring into this one for them to potentially try to get a win over the Hurricanes on Thursday night?
Well, like I said, since they have been struggling offensively lately, they're going to have to be very good defensively, and that's what they talked about after they beat the Jets. So, and the coach has talked about defending middle ice. They got to do that really well, especially because Carolina is very good defensively as well. So I think that will be a pretty good defensive battle, especially because I don't think goals will be easy for either team to come by in this game. So that will definitely be key for them to really be strong defensively and defending middle ice. That's definitely my first thought.
Yeah, I agree with you for the fact that when you look at this, you're talking about two teams that are really good defensively. Like I said, the Hawks, they are a team, like I said earlier, they are 18th in the league at 3.8 per game, but that's not bad when you look at all these other numbers that some of these other teams have. And the Hurricanes do score a lot of goals, but the Hurricanes, they've had, they got shut out the other night against the Blues a while back. They had a tough game against Detroit. They come back in that one. Even against Buffalo, they won 2-1. That wasn't an easy game. That was a scrap battle. It wasn't like, Florida and New Jersey, you score 13 in 2 games. Yeah, like you said, this is going to be a defensive game. It's about the neutral zone, who's going to control it. And I think there's a lot of speed, like both sides. You talk about Connor Bedard, you're talking about Burakovsky, you're talking about all these other guys who've got a ton of speed. Hurricanes. You're talking Sebastian Aho, you're talking Seth Jarvis, like Jalen Chatfield's got some sneaky speed. Unfortunately, Eric Robinson's out, but he's one of the other fast guys too. I feel like if you control center ice, but I think if you get them on a transition, I think both of these teams could really transitionally almost hurt each other. If just a bad pinch or a bad turnover at a blue line. This could be where you're looking at multiple 2-on-1s, 3-on-2s, possible mismatches on, I guess, rushes potentially in this one. Yeah,
for sure. I could see that. It's very, like I said, this could go either way. It's like if the Hawks are not good defensively, then they're going to have to figure out how to get their power play going again and kind of how to really just generate more offense. So I'll be interested to see where the ice kind of tilts in this game, because to me, with the Hawks, I'm saying that their offense is struggling right now, but maybe it'll start exploding in this game. Like, you just don't know. Like, that's hockey for you. So I'll be very interested to see how that goes. But yes, definitely have to be strong defensively. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, I say it every night on the show is anyone can beat anyone. There's no easy games anymore. There's no this team's coming to town, boom, there's 2 points. Like, that's every team's got stars. We talk about Bedard, we're talking about Bertuzzi's been playing really well. There's a lot of the young guys on the roster have been really stepping up, and I think too, you mentioned special teams. If you were asking me this like early December, I'm like, man, the Hurricanes do not need to take penalties, or if they get a power play, okay, what are they going to do? Because they were like dead last at one point. Now it's like, it's almost supernova, almost every second. They're scoring a power play goal almost every night at this point. Like, they're 12th in the league, but the Hawks are second. Like, for you, yeah, you're second on the penalty kill, but do you think this is where the Hawks really need to maybe trying to limit the penalties as much as possible? Because even with the Hurricanes being 12th, do you think that even with your PK being second, would that still be a kind of playing with fire? Especially where the Hurricanes are at right now. I think they're like over 25% on the PKs or on the power plays since like December. Yeah,
for sure. It's definitely playing with fire because, like, actually the Hawks have been doing really well with their discipline. They haven't taken a whole lot of penalties in their last few games. But it's like anything else. Like, on power plays, no team is going to stop every power play, and no penalty kill is going to stop every single one of them. So as great as the Hawks have been on the penalty kill, that's just not something you want to keep testing fate on if you don't have to do that. So it's definitely a strength of theirs, but like you said, you just don't want to test it if you don't have to. But I do think they're, like I said, very confident in their ability there. But like anything else, you got to stay out of the box if you want to have a chance to win a game. That's just, like we talked about, the reality of the NHL.
Yeah, and that's the thing for me too. Even with the Hurricanes, like, yeah, they're 15th, but you don't really want to give a team like the Blackhawks or anyone that many opportunities, because the last thing you want to do is give another team that many. extra advantages and you tie your penalty kill line out, and then you're gonna have a bunch of guys who are gonna be a lot more tired than others and trying to cycle that back through. And on top of that too, I mean, it kind of takes it away out of the Hurricanes' bread and butter, which is their 5-on-5. I feel like if there's a ton of penalties, I don't think the Hurricanes really get into a rhythm. It's kind of like it's really disjointed. If we get long stretches on 5-on-5, I think that's where the Hurricanes really kind of thrive on their game. But if they're undisciplined to give the Hawks the opportunity, like you said, the power play for the Blackhawks are really good. I think that kind of maybe what you talked about earlier, where the Hawks have the edge on special teams. I think if there's so many penalties, it might change the shift of who might have more tempo to the Hawks side if there's a lot of whistles in a game like this.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's really hard to gauge, but yeah, something you don't want to test it. Don't want to see that.
Yeah, definitely don't. Yeah, definitely don't want to see that for sure. But I don't know. It should be very interesting to see how it works out on Thursday night. And then, ESPN Plus, it's on Hulu. I know, the Hawks got their radio broadcast crew, which is really good. I know for the Hurricanes, they're going to have their usual TV guys doing the radio side of things, because we don't have what the Hawks have with your TV crew plus the amazing radio crew that you guys have as well, because top notch for sure. But before I let you go, if you had to pick a player of the game to watch for the Hawks and the Hurricanes, who would it be?
Do you want me to say for both teams or just for the Hawks?
Both teams. If for the team that you cover and someone on the Hurricanes that you're going to watch too.
Okay, so on the Hawks, I mean, I don't want to say Connor Bedard because I feel like that's so obvious, but I feel like
it's kind of like, we got to talk about him.
Yeah, but I feel like I got to say Connor Bedard that as a player to watch, because how can I not? I mean, he's honestly just, you always got to look out for him. He's a threat. He's, like I said, he's sensational. So, like, I can't not mention that. Like, I just can't. But, so yeah, definitely got to look out for Connor Bedard for sure. And I would say on the Hurricanes, I'm definitely looking at Taylor Hall. I mean, like I said, he was on the Blackhawks. I know, like, I don't exactly know how he feels like in regards to playing like previous teams and stuff, but I think there's always a little bit of motivation when you're facing a former team of yours. So he's definitely someone I'm looking at, and I'm always looking at Svechnikov as well, always looking at Aho. So yeah, definitely a lot of good goal scoring on Carolina's side. Definitely a lot of people the Hawks have to look out for too. Yeah,
I think for when you mentioned Taylor Hall, I think this is one where it's like, he's probably got a lot of guys on the team that he's good friends with, because it wasn't that he was on the team last year. It's not like it's just 2-3 seasons ago and the team might be completely different. I mean, you'll ask him, it's probably just another game, but I think that there's that little there's still some friends on the team because he was there for a good bit as well, not super long, but enough to where it's like, okay, there's still some connections there. So I get what you're saying with Taylor Hall. For me, I'm looking at Spencer Knight. We talked about it. I even covered him a little bit when he was with the Charlotte Checkers when I was in some minor league hockey coverage. He's someone who's always been really good. And the fact that he's getting the chance in Chicago and he's kind of shown it, I think he is number one goalie. So, like you said, if the Hurricanes make him move, I think that's going to be the big thing. But he's not going to make it easy. I've seen in the past how he's given the Hurricanes some trouble in the past. So it'll be very interesting to see how it goes with Spencer Knight. For me, I'm looking at Sebastian Aho. 7 assists in his last 3 games. I mean, he's been on the last 2 games, he's gotten 5 assists. Like, he's been on an absolute tear right now. I think he hasn't scored a little bit, but I feel like there's going to be a goal somewhere, or he's just going to keep finding the way to put the assists on other guys' sticks. Because I think in the Svechnikov hat trick game, he had the primary assist on all 3 goals. He had the primary one for the Svech goal against the Sabres. So I'm looking at Sebastian Aho to see if there's a goal there, or if it's another, hey, I'm just going to dish it to everyone else and just start racking up the assists. Because I think right now where he sits on the season, 17 goals, 35 assists for 52 points. He's over a point per game. He's also a +6. So, he's been on an absolute run. So it should be very, very interesting on Thursday night. But, Brooke, I really do appreciate you taking the time to talk to me today. I want to try to get more hockey writers on from our writing core, just to be able to do a little bit more of these previews and get a beat writer's perspective on a team like this. So I do appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. Before I let you go, though, where can people follow keep up with you on social media, and of course check out your amazing writing?
Yes, so you can follow me on Twitter. I'm very active on Twitter. I think all of us at the Hockey Writers are very active on our Twitters.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. At Brooke _Lofo, LOFO. And then you could also find all my articles at thehockeywriters.com.
Yes. Highly recommend the follow for sure. And also check out her writing a lot of great stuff. Her and Gail are an absolute dynamic duo when it comes to covering the Chicago Blackhawks for practices at Fifth Third and also at United Center. Just absolutely electric. So make sure to go do that. And Brooke, like I said, thank you so much. This is a lot of fun and should be interesting on Thursday night to see how it goes down between the Hawks and the Hurricanes.
Yeah, for sure. I'm excited.
All right, big thank you to Brooke for coming on. Really fun to get her perspective on the Blackhawks, get her thoughts on the Hurricanes as well. You guys know this season I've been trying to do a lot of the previews by myself, trying to get my thoughts on both teams, who's got the edge over who, certain players to watch, keys to the game and stuff like that. But I think it's really cool to get a beat writer's perspective on from the actual who covers the team specifically that the Hurricanes are facing and kind of get their thoughts. So the hope is to try to get more of my compatriots at the Hockey Writers on a little bit more, trying to get a beat writer's perspective on that. So hopefully everyone enjoyed that. This was a lot of fun talking to her, and should be very interesting how the Hurricanes play on Thursday night against the Blackhawks. I know this preview is a little bit early just because of the fact that it's still the Wednesday show, but the game's on Thursday. Reason for that because I got a really cool special guest for the Thursday show is Mike Maniscalco, so make sure to check that out when that drops on Thursday. But hopefully you all enjoyed the Wednesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Thank you for making your first listen of the day. For your second listen, make sure to check out the NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL. If you've never missed an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get Locked On Hurricanes ad-free plus members only Discord access and more. Head to the link in the show notes or the description below to join the club today. For those of you on video, we send you to the first ever 24/7 national Locked On podcast channel on YouTube. If you want to keep up with me, I'm at OneTrueZach on X. The podcast is L_Hurricanes. I'm also on Blue Sky, the Zachary Martin Ware. If you click the link in my bio, you can find all my written content at thehockeywriters.com. More specifically, I've done takeaways a little bit more recently and just did my post-game quote article that when I asked Rod Burnhamore a couple questions following the Hurricanes 2-1 over the Sabres. Make sure to check that out. Locked On Hurricanes are on Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, all those. So to go check those out. Make sure to leave a 5-star rating and review. If you want to check my other podcasts, it's the Surgecast on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. For the Locked On Hurricanes YouTube channel, make sure to subscribe, hit the bell notifications so you don't miss a show. Hit the thumbs up so you like the show as well. Share with other Keniacs to become everydayers just like you. But hope everyone enjoyed the Wednesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Enjoy your Wednesday. Until next time, as always, let's go Canes.